Доброго ранку.
Good morning. We start our working day at Ukraine Crisis Media Center. Our topic is presentation of risk indicators of ProZorro system. Maksym Nefiodov, Deputy Minister of Economic Development and Trade of Ukraine. Viktor, Nestulia, Director of Innovation Projects at Transparency International Ukraine. Dmytro Palamarchuk, developer of the methodology of calculating risk indicators, and Lakhtionov, project manager at Transparency International Ukraine. Good morning, dear colleagues. I am Nestulia. And thank you for being with us today. We continue to improve infrastructure of ProZorro. We started last week rating of buyers, and we have many messages from our partners, and we now create our success, our victory, and the most important part of this infrastructure is the system that we start as a pilot project, and we will test it for several months until we put this project into place. So ProZorro system generates a lot of data that can be processed automatically, and some violations can be established. Why it is important? We ask Maksym to tell us about it, how this instrument will help in the work of the Ministry of Trade, and also to all stakeholders who work in procurement. I would like to go back and say why this is needed and why this part of the project is so important for the reform of public procurement. Some people expect that ProZorro is some sort of the program that can automatically choose good tenders out of all the tenders, and that can automatically maybe hit with the current person who does something bad and correct something automatically. But this is not the case. The technology of this auction, it provides means to fight against violations or to prevent violations, to create technical obstacles for violations, but still this is not magic that can transform bad person into good one. And one of the main advantages of the electronic system compared with the paper one, it provides clear, transparent access to information. The information is open for journalists, for law enforcement, for deputies, for officials from the ministry. Each person can see the standards and in 2 hours can get access to all necessary information and can look through all the materials. So practically, these are the opportunities that we have never had before. And yesterday we had, for example, announcement, and some message was sent to me by my top officials, and at 8 we had all necessary data. Before we had to make a request, and for 3 weeks they would bring documents, then they would say that to my city, and then we would analyze some piles of papers. So it was difficult to search for violations before. If you do not have proper access to information, you cannot find faults. And out of 5,000 tenders that happen daily, this is not realistic, and a lot of violations can be seen only when compared with something. It can be compared with diagnostics. For example, if nothing hurts, you are healthy. At first glance, there is no problem, but there is another situation. You may have MRI, and you can compare, and you can reveal the problems or statistical errors before they turn into real problems. So Viktor said about positive risk management and automatic control. This is index of quality of customers. So the customer who wants to understand where he is on the map compared with other organizations, whether he worked better or worse than others, and what he can do to work better. So these are instruments for people who want voluntarily to improve their work, and now they have such an opportunity. Now we present the instrument for those who do not want to spend money of taxpayers wisely and even think that this is the shame for them. So according to different parameters, we can identify suspicious tenders. So this is not about the analysis of companies that participate when they like to say that some companies are bad or connected with some bad people. So this is subjective, and we do not want to deal with this. And we can assess the tender itself, quality of information presented, and also statistical probability of participants, whether they behaved correctly, or we can see some fluctuations that are suspicious. So we are thankful for the team, and now Dmytro will tell us about it, and we got really a scientific product. And many people worked on it both in Ukraine and abroad, and we hope that it will be used as other things that are done in ProZorro, and maybe our colleagues also will get this experience, and this is some sort of risk indicators that are related to some tenders. And each indicator may not show that you should send law enforcers there, but when we see tenders, when 8 or 9 risk indicators are in place, so this really raises concern and suspicion, and it shows that this is violation that was not revealed by journalists or in the Zora or by law enforcers, and those are those procurement you should look at in more detail. And if there are no such things that cannot be revealed, and of course, we should not have a witch hunt, and we should not believe that there is some criminal violation, that some people believe that we have some ideal tenders and the competition is huge, and documents prepared really well, and some bad tenders where there are ugly corruption and everything else. Of course, we have problems and quality of work of customers because they were not properly trained or they lack motivation. We have problems with participants. People write to me some questions on Facebook, and they participate in tenders in millions of hryvnias, and they risk their money, and they just read the law until the 3rd page, and they didn't read the whole law. And I do not really know how to react on this. We have a gray area, and we do not have many ideal procurements, but there is a problem of a gray area, and we want to divide those tenders that are problematic and those who are correct, and we want to demonstrate this on online resource. But the main thing, we want that law enforcers reacted on this. What was done in Supreme Council was registered a draft law that broadens the requirement of audit service, and they will include risk indicators in their activity, and we will send information to audit service and then to law enforcers in order that they respond. And this is more efficient than to just manually follow thousands of tenders, and also it lifts suspicion in corruption on law enforcement bodies, because why do you look at me if people are not arrested? So this is not a subjective system. For automatic system, only correct data matters, and for us it is important that we do not develop the system, not because we are lazy or because we do not want to do this, but because this is a sophisticated solution, and this was developed by experienced people, and it was analyzed in scientific centers, and we want to have trust to state structures, and this trust is often lacking. Thank you, Maksym. Maksym stressed that the system was tested for a long time, and methodology was also developed by international partners, and more than a year ago the mechanism was started, and the risk indicator system could be started last year, but we first studied international experience, and Dmytro visited many countries and studied many methodologies, and now we may say that this system we present today is unique. There is a Hungarian system that is exemplary in the EU. It is half automated, and human factor is present. And also in the United States, there are questionnaires, and people also put marks there, and the system we present today is fully automated and exclude human factor, so the computer calculates everything. And the product we start today was developed free of charge, and this is MVP. And we got support of the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, and until the end of the year we wait for financing in order to start it full scale. Today we present 16 risk indicators, and there will be many more. How this methodology was verified, was indicators will be present, and how this data will be interpreted, and how combinations will work. And Dmytro Palamarchuk will tell us. He is the developer of this methodology. I would like to add about integration of the system of ProZorro, and we use the standard of open data, and the methodology is developed based on the standard, and we are included in all of the all discussions on this topic. Maybe I will repeat. Methodology that we developed and the system ProZorro is based on open contracting data standard, and we based our system on the standard. We developed methodology not only for Ukraine, but we also included the standard of data and the world experience. And in this way, by developing the system, we will be able to include new indicators and new approaches, and we will be integrated fully in the processes and the knowledge that is generated in the world. The colleagues that worked with me on verification and validation of approach, they are from Hungary, Czech Republic, Cambridge, one colleague, They were included. We participated in conferences. We shown different approaches to each other. And in many indicators, and the majority of them, they do not have questions. They are common for many countries. These are not unique indicators. There is nothing special about them. This is about integration, about a methodology. It was correctly said by Maksym, so this is not black and white. So the indicator provokes you to get the context. If the standard indicator shows that this supplier works only with this customer, sometimes this is the problem. There is the market and the supplier sells only to this customer. And on the main page there is укргазовое добывание, but they have such a market, so we cannot calculate indicators differently. So the indicator works like it works. And we provide information that this big company works with many suppliers that work only with this company, and this is a normal situation for this market because the market is small and difficult. And when we say about schools and catering, it can raise questions, and we should look at documents, at supplier, and so on. The system will develop concerning the number of indicators. It will develop concerning the combination of indicators, and that is important. I will give example, similar example, that the supplier is a permanent supplier of the customer, and in Santander, the customer. The logic is like this: to increase competition and to have more winners, they provide 30, for example, bids, and this is really a lot. And it is expected that there will be a lot of winners, but this supplier wins all of them, and he wins, having disqualification of others. So this supplier this customer buys this good for the first time. So when there's 4 or 5 indicators are in place, this is information. And we need broader context in order to understand and make the full conclusion. But this is this main story. So there are many indicators, and they are based on probability, whether there can be quality procurement, good price through competition, and choosing the competitive supplier who works for a long time in the market, who is known to the system. So on average, okay, you may ask a question. Maybe we should state about subjective information and the influence of what suppliers provide. And I said about the context, and I meant that this is the information that we have in the documents, the market, and the documentation, and also there is information on ProZorro, comments on ProZorro. And we tested the system. I clicked on ProZorro, and sorry, Max, but for the first time we made a reference on ProZorro.ua. So we are sure now on the ProZorro site, and we produce reference to this site that is non-official. And when you go to the ProZorro, there are comments. And out of these 4,000 comments, this is not a huge number, but it was interesting. Each time I went to tender that had many comments. So for those people who monitor, this tender didn't go unseen. And all the instruments we developed, they will these instruments will be integrated, and those who work in ProZorro, 19 stakeholders, they monitor the procedures including those comments that the comments that are put. There are 4,000 comments, and we will have many more soon. And how to interact and what risk indicators will produce. So this will be presented by Ivan Lakhtionov, project manager, and he tested the system of indicators. And I would like to say that he found some procurements that will be sent to law enforcers for further procedures. I'm Ivan Lakhtionov, and I would like to tell about the cases. We found them this morning, and the risk indicators work really efficiently. So there are simple and more complex risk indicators that need more in-depth analysis, standard documentation, proposal documentation, and there are risk indicators that directly signals about violation of law. And I agree with Maksym Nefiodov that this instrument will be of use for state audit service, and all we know in what conditions it works now, and we hope for the adoption of law 4738 that will provide the service with the right to verify these procurements. And here you may see risk indicators. So I took one risk indicator, and for example, the documents were published not on time, and according to tender documentation, there is a specified time to provide a proposal. And on the left you see the announcement. It is said that the deadline is 8th of January, and from the other side you may see the documents, and you see that this is 11th of January. So here there is a direct violation of law. And moreover, if you move forward, this is the same case. You may see that preliminary proposal by both participants, it is absolutely similar. So this is the case. And in this case, maybe there is a collusion between two participants, and the documents were not put timely, but the contract was concluded. Also, disqualification in Euro procedure. All open tenders are divided into Ukrainian and European, and they have higher threshold. And here there is a disqualification of participant after qualification. So audit was completed. All three participants participated in the tender. But in other table, you see that one of participants was rejected. And this needs more analysis and verification, and the customer disqualified this participant because they didn't have the right for signature, and at this stage it is impossible to reject the participant based on this, and this is the direct violation of the law. And here, the winner was chosen without tender documentation. An interesting case. This is a Zaporizhzhia power plant, nuclear power plant. They bought construction materials, cement, and the tender documentation was absent. And this indicator also shows the violation of law, because according to the law, tender documentation should be presented, and they should provide also documents, and the participants provided the documents, but also this case will be studied, and you see that there is no documentation provided, and there will be also requests made to this participant, and this absence of documentation didn't prevent from winning. So two participants came, and they knew about the type of cement they should provide. Also an interesting indicator, and that was interesting as the big guarantee. According to the law, we have limited the percentage when the customer may demand tender support. This is 3% and for products, and 0.3 for works, and Southern Western Railway made the procurement of gasoline, and if you calculate according to expected price, according to bid 1, they had to have 198,000, and according to conditions of this tender, the support is 238,000, and this is a direct violation of the law, because we have percentage that is clearly established by law. Maybe it was done on purpose, or maybe these are miscalculations of those who prepared the standard, but this is an indicator that directly shows the violation of the law, and we should signal about this. Also, one more interesting risk indicator: when the rates differ, so customer is communal road and construction enterprise, they bought diesel fuel, and expected price 4 million, and you may see the screen, and the contract was concluded on May 2017, but we saw that the price 13 hryvnias. So you, as a driver, may know that this is unreal to buy any fuel for this price. And in the last round, the participant halved the price. So this signals about potential dumping, and this should be studied further. And there were 6 additional agreements after agreement was made, and they have a price about 20 hryvnias per liter now. So this case will be studied, and I personally will prepare request to customer and supplier. And the support here was not asked for. So the customer should force the to supply for 13 hryvnias. So additional agreements are made 2 in a month. So this signals about collusion between supplier and customer. And I have a question whether these procurements happen at this price, and then they went up 10%, and did they have these supplies at first and second agreements, additional agreements? So you may find information about it at the Zora site, and we ask everyone. We have instruments, and these risk indicators will help people who knows about procurement. These people can find this treason rather in a short time. And please monitor the Zorro site. And risk indicators, they are not to just find violators and punish them. There are cases with errors when someone miscalculated with 0.2. So you may look at our site, and the customers, they can find faults in their work and change their approach in order to work more, that their work will be more of quality. So please, you may raise your efficiency in this way, and these risk indicators will be of use for controlling bodies and for law enforcement bodies. And on platform we have an email address, and you may ask about methodology and calculations. So what we say about errors and faults, these are not just bureaucratic things that someone just didn't put one paper and we try to catch him. So we have a complex task, and it is even more complex than a broad public thing. So for thousands of customers, we have several people who are corrupt. So this is not about this. The situation is much more difficult. So the field is gray, and we want to increase overall quality and to simplify access to procurement and to remove those errors that may not be 100% intentional, in order to find violations and some errors. They produce excessive spending of taxpayers' money, and if people produce this neglect, or they have collusion with the suppliers and they just create some schemes, and they rejected more quality suppliers and then try to do something by this additional agreement. So this is overspending. And if the banking guarantee is too high, it means that we as customers pay for this bank guarantee because someone increased it. And the more they spend for the participation, and the less opportunity someone will come and participate. So some people just do not want to participate because banking guarantees are too high, and it increases the price. And for the first time, we have an instrument when we can reveal such things automatically, not only due to the work of anti-corruption activists, Transparency International, Our Money, but also due to automated system. The computer can each day analyze all tenders and put red flags on them. And then this instrument will learn from this. And also when the bank identify based on profession, based on age, experience, whether the bank can trust the client. And this way we can find how risk indicators are interrelated. Some of indicators may reveal neglect, and some can reveal crime. And in this way we will better understand the situation and will reveal violations. Also, I would like to add what Maksym said about errors and real violations. As Ivan said, when there is a low price, it can be an error, nothing special. For example, supplier just made an error, but another indicator may show additional agreements on their number. So the probability of error in this case is reduced. So this is how this instrument works. This instrument is blind concerning the context, but if it is provided with proper data, so it can reveal these violations. And also there can be collusion between supplier and supplier. So we may see through indicators whether they had a collusion between 2 or 3 suppliers concerning money, concerning other things. So we, in this way, can have an overall picture. Do you have questions? Please ask. There are no questions. Oh, yes, there is. There is a Department of Procurement. I heard that there are some indicators that the number is 16 now, and what will be the final number of indicator? We have 60 and in big 140 in big file. So we test. We can calculate a lot. Ivan, he tests each indicator in order to understand that this indicator is useful for Ukraine, because we discuss these matters with our foreign partners, and we create big methodology that can be useful for any system. But in this case, we try to adapt the system, and we have only 1 year of quality data. And when you want to compare and make conclusion based on repetition of the standards, so we do not have enough data that is repeated. We do not know but maybe about 60 indicators we will have. So this will stimulate the development of the system of risk indicators. And if we integrate ProZorro system and system of procurement of medicine, there will be additional indicators that will show some manipulations. And we started to do this, but we didn't go in depth. We want to create an indicator that will be based on other indicators. These will be such sets. When, for example, 3 indicators are in place, so there will be 1 indicator based on these 3 indicators. Department of Internal Financial Control and Audit, Makarchuk Pavlo, and the mechanism and the instrument, is it accessible for everyone, or there will be passwords? Who can use it? Yes, what you see on the screen is the site. Everyone can use it. And on what site can we see this? The risk.brazora.org. You may see this information on the site. During several months, there will be public API, and all indicators can be provided to ProZorro, the system of ProZorro, or U-Control, or other services. They will be able to show this, or Department of Control and Audit of Kiev City Administration. So first we should calculate them. So, and then we can analyze them and compare. Please. Yeremenko Sergey, Transparency International. You've stated that you actively participated in that foreign experts participated in development. And what about controlling bodies of Ukraine, whether they participated, because they should use this system. We addressed audit service in order that they provided methodology they use while monitoring the tender. And they said, when you start your methodology, you may provide it to us and we will see what it is, but we do not have proper cooperation now. So they have a more complex task. They need to establish legality. So, for example, supplier one and whether the price is competitive, but concerning the law, maybe this is legal. So this can be, the result may be illegal. So for the citizens, all governmental bodies, this is like one body that should work properly, but each governmental body specializes in something, and State Audit Service, their work is to verify the procedure. And this is a difficult job, because they should look in the essence. And some people believe that there is some sort of treason, but the documents show that everything is good and made timely, and audit service, they are not law enforcers. In order to get data from the phones or to bring a Katerina agent or do something like this. And the system should distribute the violations according to the groups and send them to those bodies that should respond and influence. And we have fruitful cooperation with law enforcers. Criminal cases are started concerning cases of ProZorro. Someone is fired, someone is punished, and law enforcers have a problem. They have limited resources in prosecutor's office and NEBA. They do not have free employees, specialists in procurement, and if we provide everything that is in the press, and I do not want to say this information is biased, but the level of analysis is not enough in order that prosecutors would respond. These are just emotions. So for them it is difficult to work with the documents, and it decreases the efficiency of their work. So our task is to reveal where the documents are correct, but we are sure that 20 additional agreements to increase the price for fuel, it cannot be a coincidence. So it looks really suspicious. So there is a high probability that there is something. So maybe there should be operative data collected and investigation carried out in order to bring this collusion to light. And also about the auditors. Today there is a public presentation. They can test the system, and we will come up with a proposal, and maybe they can provide some ideas about risk indicators, and we will consider their proposals with pleasure. ICTV channel, I have a question. There is such a thing as tender mafia or tender kings. Yatsenko, Dubnenko, Trukhanov, that they create a monopoly, and their firms win tenders, and they get millions and billions. And tell us, please, what are the main schemes? How do they do this? How do they overcome this system, and this maybe these mafia guys should be put on trial. So the first question: how do they overcome the system? And this indicators of risk, how can they prevent these big players from making violations? Look, ProZorro system is not overcome. This is not correct understanding. This is not correct. This is not the wall that prevents violation, or there is some hole in it, and everyone may go through this hole. For each type of violation, there are some options how to respond. Something can be prevented by this electronic system itself. So subjective rejection from the bid. So, for example, when you may bring documents to some room and you do not know where to address, where to provide your documents to. So some things cannot be prevented by electronic systems. For example, if someone comes here and takes someone's phone and is running away, so this is not about ProZorro. What types of violations that the system can prevent? So the main benefit of the electronic system that these violations are clearly seen. You may identify them automatically, not only manually, and you may respond on this. And standard documentation that is made for someone that provides benefit for one participant or prevents someone from participating in procurement, or wrong disqualifications when they say that this package is bad and you are rejected from the tender, and each person now may see what documents were needed and that this disqualification was illegal. So there are more sophisticated violations, but we have less of them. There is tender collusion when, despite auction, the participants meet in the restaurant and they say that, for example, you put 10 and I put 9, and in the next tender I put 10, you will put 9. So for each type of violations, there is a number of indicators, and the reform of procurement is broader than ProZorro. We fight collusion due to anonymous auctions, and we have positive examples. In catering for military, this is a limited market. There is a little number of players, and these companies know each other really well, and anonymous auctions, all players may agree in a restaurant, but after this they may not be sure that they will adhere to the agreement. So, for example, there were 4 real companies that supplied, and in tender there was 16 participants. So each of them brought 3 friends with them. So they wanted to lift the lowest prices then. So whether we have tender mafia, this is a difficult question. So we have low competition in many markets in Ukraine, and this is not about the automatic system. This is a question to investment climate, to anti-monopoly committee. So in metallurgy area, there is no proper competition, and we understand that We cannot have many suppliers of the airplanes or turbines. In these areas, there is big concentration, and tenders are won by those who are present in the market, but there are no great opportunities there, and this should be solved in a way to create better business climate in the country. And also there are procurements where we see problems that some weird companies win tenders and real players are prevented from participation. And for this we create this ProZorro, the Zorro, and nothing is panacea. We are not politicians. We may not say that after this there will be complete happiness, but we create our wall brick by brick, and we improve. As Maksym said, anonymous tenders are in place, and in many procedures there is no preliminary qualification, and the customer cannot control supplier. So if they agree among themselves, some other supplier may come and participate. And who can fight tender mafia? Maybe this is a competitor in tenders. So I often ask, why did you do to protect your interests? And they say, oh, we called you. And I said, file a complaint. It costs 5,000 hryvnias. And you may establish trust in this, and also there should be proper competition, because participants, as Maksym Nefiodov said, they read several pages of law and nothing else. And some participants only read first page of documentation and the last page, and they do not know what documents to include because they didn't read all documentation that is needed. So and the last comment in the context of the message provided by Ivan, I would like to greet Anti-Monopoly Committee. They got more than 3,000 complaints, and now they had about previously the participants were not able to analyze the documents of the competitors, and the big number of the complaints they show that there are some errors in the documents. So Yuri Nikolov from Our Money described an interesting case about the claim to Anti-Monopoly Committee concerning railroad company for 300,000 hryvnias. And Anti-Monopoly Committee, they reviewed this claim for a whole day and everything, and they took decision for the benefit of the competitor. So now you have the opportunity to complain and to get a positive result. And in this way, we can fight this tender mafia. Thank you very much for this discussion. Till the next time, goodbye, and we wait for the results of your work.